Hello, and thank you for joining this information session on the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship Program. My name is Dr. Matthew Plustern. I am the Assistant Dean of the Graduate School. In my role, I am also the Graduate Student Fellowship Advisor, and my role is to support you in your application for the NSF-GRFP, and other nationally competitive fellowships. In this information session, we'll cover what the NSF-GRFP actually is, fellowship benefits, eligibility and the eligible fields of study, application components, some tips and reminders, and some frequently asked questions. What is the NSF-GRFP? The purpose of the fellowship program is to help ensure the quality and vitality of the scientific and engineering workforce in the United States. A goal of the program is to broaden participation of the full spectrum of diverse talents in STEM. This includes a diversity of areas of study or areas of research, and a diversity of the types of research that you are doing in those niche areas. The program recognizes and supports outstanding graduate students in NSF-supported science, technology, engineering, and mathematics disciplines who are pursuing research-based master's and doctoral degrees at accredited United States institutions. The NSF-GRFP is the oldest graduate fellowship of its kind. The GRFP has a long history of selecting recipients who achieve high goals of success in their future academic and professional careers. The reputation of the GRFP follows recipients and often helps them become lifelong leaders and contribute significantly to both scientific innovation and teaching. Past fellows include Nobel Prize winners, government leaders, industry leaders, among many others. The National Science Foundation provides each fellow with a 5-year fellowship with 3 years of funding. The 3 years out of 5 years allows you to take your fellowship and plug it in where you need it most. It allows you to also balance that time with other opportunities, such as other fellowships or assistantships, as well as curricular requirements that you may have. Some programs, for example, require that you spend a year teaching or a year or two in a research lab, and the fellowship provides you that flexibility to meet those requirements and save your fellowship for later, or use the fellowship first before meeting those requirements. In addition to $37,000 a year for each year, which is paid monthly, you will receive tuition coverage. This includes resident tuition, mandatory fees, non-resident waivers, and any differentials or lab or program specific fees that you may have. The NSF also supports career and life balance. This comes across as parental leave or family leave, medical leave, as well as military leave, and access to other professional development opportunities, such as the NSF intern program, where you may extend your NSF GRFP to include an internship in industry for up to 6 months. Many universities provide additional benefits to each of their National Science Foundation graduate research fellows. The University of Utah provides for each year of funding, so over 3 years, health insurance coverage, $2,000 a year in research expenses or professional development, and in addition to these university-wide benefits for fellows, some faculty advisors provide an additional fellowship bonus. Some other important benefits to take into account when applying for the National Science Foundation Fellowship is that this is mobile. It is not a grant that is given to the university that you are attending. It is a fellowship that you can take to any United States institution where you're studying in a qualified research-based graduate program. The GRFP can sometimes provide a step up in graduate admissions, whether that is beginning your graduate journey or transferring to a program that is a better fit for you. There's naturally the prestige and recognition of being a National Science Foundation Fellow that boosts your resume or CV, and this does establish a pattern of seeking and hopefully getting external funding. Additionally, as we say in the fellowship community, the benefit is in the process. Applying for a nationally competitive fellowship, you exercise certain skills that will be valuable both in seeking other fellowship and scholarship opportunities, as well as professional development that will help you on the job market or even in your graduate program. To be eligible for the NSF-GRFP, you must be a United States citizen, national, or permanent resident. You must be a rising senior or a first or second year graduate student. Otherwise, you must have at least 2 years since last grad enrollment. Uh, when we say rising senior or first or second year grad student, this is at the time of application. Applications are due in October. So you may be a junior right now, but as long as you are a senior, by October 2024, you are considered a rising senior. As long as you are in the first year or the second year of your graduate program, come October 2024, you meet that requirement. If you have taken time off and you're unsure of your eligibility, please email me and we can discuss your unique situation. Non-traditional students are welcome and encouraged to apply provided they meet the eligibility requirements. And you must be enrolled or intend to enroll in a research-based master's or doctoral program in a STEM field. So those of you who are rising seniors who will be applying for this award, keep in mind that given the deadline for the NSF-GRFP, October 2024, this could very easily be before the deadlines of your graduate programs. So you could be applying for this fellowship before you even submit an application to a graduate program. And that is okay. That is understood that that is part of the process here. And that hopefully is not an issue that will deter you from applying, provided that you are otherwise eligible. Eligible STEM fields. Applicants will identify a field, a broader field such as chemistry, engineering, life science, that overall describes their research interests. Identified field may be the same name as your program of study, but sometimes it is not. For example, you may be in a chemistry program, a PhD in chemistry, but your research interest may be under the life science category, and that is okay. Applicants will then, once they have identified a field, they will select a subfield. For example, chemistry and a subfield of the chemistry of the life process. Another example would be chemistry and artificial intelligence in chemistry. And this helps narrow your specific interests to ensure that you are reviewed by the right reviewers. Here are a list of the eligible STEM fields. These are the broader fields: chemistry, computer and information sciences and engineering, geoscience, life sciences, materials research, mathematical science, physics and astronomy, psychology, social sciences, STEM education and learning research. A really important note here about STEM education. Students who are pursuing, for example, a master's degree in a STEM education field, such as chemistry teaching or physics teaching, with the intention of taking that master's and going and teaching in, for example, the K-12 system. That would not be an eligible area of study. However, a PhD in STEM education, where you are studying how chemistry is being taught, how physics is being taught, that would be an eligible STEM education field. So who is not supported by the NSF-GRFP? Joint science and professional programs such as a JD, PhD, MD, PhD, MBA, PhD are not eligible. Business administration or management degrees are not eligible. Counseling, social work, and other similar degrees are not eligible. History is not an eligible STEM field except the history of science. Education is not eligible except the study of STEM education and other professional degree programs, which includes Masters of Public Health, Master of Public Administration, Master of Legal Studies, and Professional Science Master. If you're not sure if your program constitutes as a research-based program or a professional program, please do speak with your academic program coordinator. You can also reach out to me, and I'm happy to have that discussion with you as well. Additionally, research that is within disease-related goals, unless you are in a biomedical engineering field, clinical research, patient-oriented research, epidemiological and medical behavioral studies, outcomes research, health services research, as well as pharmacological and non-pharmacological and behavioral interventions for disease or disorder prevention, therapy, treatment, diagnosis, etc., are not eligible. The application has three primary components in addition to the portal where you will input basic information. These three areas of uploads are transcripts, statements, and reference letters. We'll dive into each of these three sections. Transcripts, you must list on your application the baccalaureate institution that you've graduated from or intend to graduate from, and all graduate institutions attended. You must also submit all degree granting institutions you've attended, even if you did not graduate from that institution. Looking at the Salt Lake community, let's say that you attended Salt Lake Community College and then transferred to the University of Utah without graduating from Salt Lake Community College. Even though you did not graduate from SLCC, you did attend and you would therefore need to upload that transcript. If you are a graduate student applying in the first year of graduate study, note you do not have a transcript available yet because you have not completed a semester yet. However, the Office of the Registrar can provide for you an enrollment verification form, and the NSF has noted that this will be sufficient. Now your personal statement or your written statements, which are in the form of a personal statement and a graduate research plan statement. Each of these requires that broader impacts and intellectual merit be addressed in each statement under a specific heading. The NSF has recently made it clear that applications missing both concepts on each statement without a heading will be returned without review or feedback. Develop a consistent theme in your statements and across each statements to weave together your personal story and your academic and career plans. The personal relevant background and future goals statement or personal statement is a maximum of 3 pages, which means fill all 3 pages. You cannot exceed 3 pages, but you also don't want to write less than 3 full pages. Please utilize all the space that is available to you. In your personal statement, you will tell your story. What motivates or inspires you? What drew you into your research? Show how you have taken initiative or faced challenges. A common thing that we see in scholarship and fellowship essays is a lot of writers believe that they do need to show how their life has been hard. That only works when you show that how you've overcome these challenges, how you have developed resilience, how you've been creative with troubleshooting to overcome these challenges. Describe your projects and contributions and your future goals, and of course, label your intellectual merit and broader impacts. You want to avoid narratives like, my grandmother died of cancer, so I decided to be a scientist. This doesn't really tell us a sequential story of how that journey unfolded. So instead, you want to say something like, my grandmother's passing of cancer really piqued my interest in a certain area of science, which led to me asking certain questions, which led to me studying chemistry or another field in my undergraduate program, etc., etc., etc. So instead of going from A directly to Z, you're covering A, B, C, D, E, F, etc. You also want to avoid narratives like, I'm pursuing a career as a scientist because I want to change the world. There's a lot of assumption in this statement that we don't want our reviewers to make, such as the only way to change the world is to be a scientist, or that you are equipped and have the necessary skills to be a scientist and a scientist that will change the world. Rather, you want to expound upon that again, instead of going from A to Z, take each sequential step. I am pursuing a career as a scientist in, let's say, physics, because it combines my interests with research and innovation with my skills of XYZ and my background in engineering and physics to help me address these societal issues. So, what you're essentially showing is how you're the best person in your shoes to address certain societal or research problems. Transitioning now to your research plan statement. This is 2 pages. Again, similar to your personal statement, use all the space that you have, all 2 pages, no more, no less. I also want to uh, note that the 2 pages here and the 3 pages on your personal statement do include any sources cited. You do not have any additional space for source citations or bibliography. In your research plan statement, you will describe your research idea, including a brief background, your approach to this project, the methods that you may be employing, and the predictions that you have. Describe what you expect to learn, and this isn't just the hypothesis that you will be proving or disproving. Rather, what skills will you be learning along the way? What sort of experiences will you be engaging with through this project, through the execution of this project and the completion of your PhD? You want to recognize and describe the risk. What's your plan B if the project does not go as planned? Every research project has a vulnerable component to it. Some variable that may or may not come to fruition, such as a data source may not be able to provide you the data that you're hoping for. Or, as we saw in the past few years with the coronavirus pandemic, you may be planning to go to a specific data collection site, but then a global health crisis shuts down that data collection site. So, plan B isn't to say, if this variable doesn't work out, I'm going to shift to an entirely new project, but rather this variable didn't work out. And I understand that this is a vulnerable variable. And so I'm planning to switch that with another variable so that I can complete this research project. And this will show evidence of how you think, how you've, in your approach and your methods, why did you select that methodology? How did you arrive upon these predictions and hypotheses? Your plan needs to be clear and well designed. And of course, label your research plan's intellectual merit and broader impacts. So, what are intellectual merit and broader impacts? I've talked about them a few times. Let's add some definition. Intellectual merit is the potential to advance knowledge, whether that is diving deeper into certain concepts or creating new knowledge. You would discuss in your papers how will your proposed research advance knowledge and understanding in your particular field and across other disciplines. And the broader impacts is the potential to impact society and contribute to the achievement of specific desired societal outcomes. Discuss how your proposed research will benefit your local community. And again, label both broader impacts and intellectual merit on each of your statements. So here's a visual for you of broader impacts and intellectual merit. You will approach each of these differently between your personal statement and your research statement. In your personal statement, your intellectual merit will describe you and your motivation, your ability, research experience, preparation as a scholar, as a leader, your achievements, perseverance, and your future goals, including scholarly goals, professional goals, leadership goals. These different areas definitely talk about your research experience, your preparation, your motivation as a scientist, but also talk about your involvement in your community, even in areas outside of STEM or science or a university community. If, for example, you've been a longtime volunteer at a refugee center teaching children how to read English or to helping them with their math homework, that is a great way to illustrate your involvement in a community, even if that does not necessarily align with your research area. Conversely, you will talk about intellectual merit in your research plan a little differently. This is the merit of your work rather than the merit of you yourself. This is where you'll describe your topic and the innovative and creative dimensions of that research project and the rigor that you bring with that, new knowledge that your research will create, and the contributions that your work will be giving to science, both in your discipline and across other disciplines. Your broader impact in your personal statement will cover your background, your personal story, your broadening participation in the community, outreach, identity, initiative, leadership, and how you've communicated science, how you've brought science to the masses, you might say. Conversely, broader impacts in your work will describe the foundational nature and relevance and importance of your project to greater society, and any educational or interdisciplinary connections of your research. This is where you're going to talk about how your research, whether directly or indirectly, will impact the average person on the street, and figuratively speaking. Additionally, your work is only going to change the world or change the community if you communicate that outward. So, broader impacts in your work is going to be an ideal place for you to talk about what you will do with your results upon completion of your project. Will you be publishing this in journals? If so, where can you list the journals that would be ideal for this particular research project to be published in? Do you plan to go to conferences? A lot of the research done by uh, PhD students, especially those in STEM fields, impacts public policy, whether that is environmental policy, uh, economic policy, educational policy, or other areas. And policymakers are at all levels: local, county, state legislative, and of course, national and congressional policy. So, do you plan to share this with policymakers? How do you plan to interface, if you do at all, with the policymaking process? Some advice for you on your statements. Keep in mind that the NSF GRFP is not just for scientists, as you are growing and developing as a scientist. But in addition to that, they're investing in you as a future leader. So show your leadership potential. Show how you are self-starter and how you have the ability to build community and collaboration, how you can lead a team, how you can take charge. Definitely be yourself and convey who you are in the narrative. The potential of you as an individual, such as a leader, is evaluated, not just the merit of your proposed research. And feel free to use scientific terms and language, but do not be too jargon heavy or overly technical. Reviewers will not be experts per se in your niche area of research project, and there are chances that some of your reviewers will not be from your more finite area of study. Now, the final component of uploads for your application: reference letters. You must have at least two reference letters. Three are recommended. Up to three letters can be reviewed by reviewers as part of your application. If you only have one letter of recommendation uploaded by reviewers or zero, your application will be returned without review. References must be from non-family members, preferably professors and researchers who are familiar with you as a person. That is ideal. These are individuals that you've taken classes from, whose research labs you've worked in. They may be from grad experiences, they may be from undergrad experiences. They just need to be someone who has a meaningful connection with you and can speak to your abilities as a scholar, as a leader, as a student. If your reference writer is from industry, coach them on what the GRFP is and how they can support your application. You are able to list up to 5 reference writers, and we encourage you to fill all 5. And you will rank them. This is my first choice, second, third, fourth, fifth choice. This way, let's say you have a first choice and a third choice who, for whatever reason, don't upload their letters. An emergency may have happened. Their Wi-Fi may have went out when they were uploading and they didn't meet the deadline, or other things that may have occurred. Well, if your fourth and fifth choice did upload letters, you will still have 3 letters that can be reviewed by your reviewers. Some important considerations here. Again, the NSF is looking to fund you, not your research team or your PI, but you as a growing leader, you as a scholar, you as a researcher, you as a student. Very importantly, you do need to make it very clear that your research project is yours. The NSF GRFP will not be used to fund your research team or your PI. And it is very important that your research advisor, especially for those of you applying as graduate students, talk about how your proposed research plan is original and it is not their research project. So there's going to be a statement of originality that they include in their letter of recommendation. You do need to have previous research experience and evidence of your research productivity. However, You do not have to have publications. Publications and presentations help, but that is not required. Research experience is absolutely rudimentary. And you do need a strong GPA. We don't define for you what a strong GPA is because there are so many different dimensions through which we could look at this. For example, you may have been a pretty strong student performing very well in all of your classes along the way, and you have a strong GPA overall. Some of you may have come to college and found that this is very different from your high school experiences, and you had to hone some stronger study skills, or you had to find your right niche, the right time to take classes that will allow you to be at your peak performance. And then you got into a groove, you got resourced, and you were able to perform well after that. Conversely, or similarly, you may have started college, started in a major that was not a good fit for you. You didn't perform well. But then once you got into your right STEM field, you performed very well. You had top grades, and that would be a strong GPA in your major. So, if you feel like you're not sure about your GPA, please reach out to me and I'm happy to discuss that with you. The NSF does have certain outreach goals here to attract a diverse and qualified applicant pool with particular attention to students who attend minority serving institutions, such as historically Black universities and colleges, Hispanic serving institutions, among others. Students studying at EPSCoR jurisdictions, and I'll cover that in a minute, as well as non-traditional education tracks. EPSCoR is the established program to stimulate competitive research. This is the NSF's initiative to enhance research competitiveness of STEM research in designated states or territories that may not be as competitive as other areas with STEM research. If you are from an EPSCoR jurisdiction, completed undergrad in an EPSCoR state, or you are planning to attend a university in an EPSCoR area, please feel free to include that in your story and discuss how that locale may have impacted your trajectory. And here's a list of those EPSCoR territories: Alabama, Arkansas, Delaware, Guam, Hawaii, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Mississippi, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Mexico, North Dakota, Oklahoma, Puerto Rico, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, U.S. Virgin Islands, Vermont, West Virginia, and Wyoming. You'll note here that Guam, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, which are United States territories, are listed here. United States territories are considered part of the United States when it comes to citizenship. And if you are citizens of those areas, you are eligible to apply for the NSF-GRFP. A quick note for non-traditional students. Please apply. You are welcome and encouraged to apply. However, you do have an additional responsibility here if you are applying after several years away from university life. In your narrative, you want to discuss the why behind returning to school, such as why are you back to school now? What prompted this decision? Why grad school? Why in this particular area of study? And what was your motivation to go back to school to pursue either an extension of your current trajectory, such as working in engineering R&D and now wanting to go and get a PhD in that area, or if you are switching trajectories down a new career path, why are you doing that and what was your motivation to take that step? This can be a very compelling dimension to your personal statement and is a great opportunity to talk about your past, your present, and your future um, as a student and as a researcher. Common weaknesses that we see in applications: an unorganized personal statement that does not tell a story. In general, in your personal statement, you want to address this as your past, followed by your present, followed by your future. However, there's no single right or wrong way to structure your personal statement. But what you don't want is to be jumping back and forth or all over the place where your reviewer or any reader of your personal statement is confused about the timeline or getting all the facts in an order, connecting various dots. Another weakness is a research statement that is unclear, incomplete, or unpolished. too little or too much detail, failure to own your research. This is something that we do see a lot. Students will talk about their research experience as, in my lab, we did this. In my PI's research group, our overall objective is XYZ. That's great to talk about the overall objective, but you need to own your contributions to that. It's okay to say our overall goal was XYZ. However, as a one cog in a very large machine, my responsibility was XYZ. Talk about your contribution, how you collaborated with other parts of the research machine, and what skills you have engaged with or learned during that process, as well as what did you learn or what was your takeaway from that experience as well. Additionally, another weakness with the research statement is lacking recognition of those research risks. We talked about this a few slides ago about there being vulnerable variables or such with your research project. Absolutely own that those risks and mention them and talk about your backup plan. Dense writing that is too difficult to understand or is uninteresting. Too much jargon. As mentioned, you will have reviewers who are outside of your niche area. So you don't want your reviewers to have to be Googling different terms or what something means. So use jargon as necessary, but you may have to define what some of that jargon means. And of course, failure to address your broader impacts. Graduate students and rising seniors tend to do a pretty good job talking about their intellectual merit. Why is this project important to their area of study and to science in general, but some broader impacts that we want to pay a special amount of attention to. What you can do today. As a current or incoming graduate student, you want to work with your faculty advisor or PI to develop your research plan. As a graduate student, they are going to be your primary partner in fellowship applications. You want to speak specifically about your graduate school choice. You want to illustrate to the reviewer that you're in the right place for what you are doing. So, why did you choose your program at your institution? Why is that the best place for you to be? This could be you're with the right researcher that is your PI, you have the resources that you need, or whatever it is that is going to make you be successful in that program. And have a firm research plan. This should be more specific than when you were finishing as an undergrad. Conversely, those of you who are rising seniors, you do need a research plan, but it will likely be less specific than if you are applying as a current graduate student, especially a second year grad student. You can also read the current solicitation, which is from 2023. The 2024 award solicitation, which includes the award details, the deadlines, the eligibility information, the different requirements of the application, etc., for 2024 will be available in late July or early August, which will coincide with the opening of the portal. Make a plan between today and the October deadlines. The 2024 solicitation will tell us specifically what the deadline is for your specific area. Chemistry will have likely a different deadline than engineering will. So you need to pay very close attention to which deadline is specific to your area and make a plan between them and today. If you're applying on or submitting your application on X date in October, how much time do you need for final polishing? How much time do you need for feedback from peers, from your PI, from fellowship advisors like me, et cetera, et cetera. So working backwards to come up with a plan. Identify your strengths and weaknesses. A lot of students feel like they should not talk about their weaknesses, like it will hurt their application. On the contrary, as long as you're addressing your weaknesses and how you're going to um, deal with them, this can make your application stronger. One thing in recent years I've seen in a lot of applications is the importance of having coding skills. And that can be a weakness for a number of students because they, at the time of application, do not have coding skills or it's not included in their specific area of study, but it's needed for their methodology. So, how do you talk about that? This can be as simple as saying, for my methodology, I will be utilizing coding. I need Python to do my analyses. However, I do not have this skill. I plan to, however, upon completion of my qualifying exams, take a Python course so I have the skills. Very easy. You've addressed the weakness and you've addressed how you will be overcoming that weakness. Move along any research projects that you have in progress if you are at all able to. Same with any pending articles. If you're able to get publications, that's great. However, please definitely talk about having articles in progress, such as this article is currently under review with the Journal of XYZ, with publication slated for X date. Or you might even be a step before that, such as my research group and I are writing an article on this research project. We plan to submit this for publication to this journal and this journal and this journal. Being able to provide those specifics show that you're not just conceptually talking about writing an article, but you've thought about how that research will be relevant to certain populations. And that's valuable to mention. Thematically organize your personal statement and begin drafting statements early and go through multiple drafts with your faculty, mentor, your peers, your advisor, your fellowship advisor, among others. Uh, is there a right number of drafts? No, there is not. However, you will go through several. Many of my students who get the award will say that they went through 30 versions of a personal statement and just as many of a research statement. This is why we start early so that you are not writing under duress. Some frequently asked questions. How many times can I apply? Once you begin your graduate program, you can apply just once as a first year or second year student. Individuals in a bachelor's to master's joint program can apply once. If you are applying as a rising senior, you're not yet in a graduate program. So you, you may potentially double your opportunity to apply. Let's say you apply as a rising senior and you don't get the award. Then, once you start your graduate program, you can apply as either a first year or a second year student. I'm starting graduate school this fall, but I've taken a year of non matriculated courses. Does this count as time in a graduate program? No, the NSF will only count the time in a matriculated or degree seeking program. Courses taken here and there, such as to bolster your graduate school application, don't count as time in a program as long as you were not degree seeking. I did recently have a student ask me about a unique situation. He was taking classes to prepare for a PhD program. However, that was classified as a master's program to onboard into a PhD program, even though he was not aiming to earn a master's degree. Is that matriculated or not matriculated? Officially, that is a matriculated program, so that time does count as time in a graduate program. If you're unsure about your situation, please send me an email and let's have a conversation. Once applying as a graduate student, is it more important for me to reflect on my graduate experience rather than my undergraduate experience? Is there a secret formula to balance out these two areas? No, there's no secret formula at all. However, you want to hone in on what experience is meaningful to you. If you are applying as a second year graduate student, it is going to be important that you do talk about your graduate experience. But if you had meaningful undergraduate experiences as well, you can add that into the conversation too. If you're applying as a first year graduate student, keep in mind that you have been by the October deadline in your graduate program for between 4 and 8 weeks. That's not very long at all. So you may not have rich graduate experiences to talk about, but may have more meaningful experiences from undergrad. And of course, those of you who are applying as rising seniors will only have undergraduate research experiences. So you don't have to worry about discussing your graduate experiences as they've not occurred yet. I'm in the first year of a PhD program, but previously earned a master's. Am I eligible? Oof, this is a hard maybe. Generally, having a master's will disqualify you from being eligible because you've earned a graduate degree already. However, if your master's was a first or a 1 year program and your PhD program is the second year in the program, that may open some opportunity if there's some time in between. If you're unsure, if you have completed a master's degree and you're curious if you're able to be eligible. This is going to be a very unique individual situation. Reach out to me and we can have a conversation. And if necessary, I can reach out to the National Science Foundation to see if they're able to provide us with some additional clarification. Are there citizenship requirements? Yes. Applicants must be United States citizens or permanent residents. The citizenship requirement is non-negotiable. Every year, I get at least one or two students or faculty members that reach out to me and say, well, this particular situation is unique. And so we need to provide a little bandwidth or a little understanding or an exception in these unique areas. Unfortunately, as the PI and coordinating official for the NSF-GRFP, I have zero power in doing so, and the NSF does not make exceptions. So unfortunately, if at the time of application in October 2024, you are not a United States citizen or permanent resident, you will not be eligible to apply for the NSF-GRFP. Can I apply for the GRFP if I'm planning to attend a foreign institution? The hard answer here is no. You can only take your GRFP to a United States institution of higher education with a qualified research-based graduate program in your area of study. However, there is a workaround here. You may be desiring to collaborate with, for example, a researcher or a research institution in another country, at a university in another country. As long as you are earning your degree from a United States institution and you are enrolled full time at that United States institution, you can go and engage in research experiences elsewhere, such as a research institute or with a faculty researcher at a foreign institution. Again, as long as you maintain enrollment and an active degree program at the U.S. higher institution of higher education, you can collaborate internationally. I didn't attend an Ivy League or elite university for undergrad. Will I have a chance? Absolutely. The NSF values diversity among the institution's programs, topics, and people. For reference, this fall, the University of Utah will have about 50 NSF graduate fellows on our campus, which is not a small number. And these students come from state teaching institutions. Many of these students went to community college for the first part of undergrad. Very few of these students came from elite Ivy League or private institutions. Most, if not all, have come from public institutions. Um, it's more about the quality experience that you had than the name of the institution. I've worked on papers not yet ready for publication. Is this a problem? Publications are helpful in your application, but they are not required. Not having a publication will not hurt you. However, you can use this as an opportunity to discuss your publication in your narrative, such as being able to say, I'm working on a publication to submit to the XYZ Journal of, or we are currently under review. We've been accepted by a journal, but we are completing revisions at this time. And our article will be published by such and such date. There are opportunities to discuss your works in progress if they've not been completed. I've worked in industry before heading to grad school. Can an industry professional write a letter of recommendation? Yes, absolutely. But you want to make sure that they understand what the GRFP is and what they need to be talking about. Sometimes we'll have an industry recommendation writer say, yes, Jane or John were great employees. They showed up every day. They met their goals and their objectives, and I would absolutely rehire them again one day. That's more of a job reference, not a fellowship recommendation. Rather, what will be valuable is for that supervisor to say, yes, Jane led a team on XYZ types of projects. Here's how she connected with people on her team and how she motivated her team. Here's how she troubleshooted and overcame certain challenges and maneuvered around various concerns with the project. So, what are the skills that are needed for your research project that you may have learned or experienced in industry? That's what you'll want corroborated by an industry letter writer. What are the applications due? We have various deadlines depending on your area of study, all in October 2024. When will applicants be notified of the results? In April, usually the very beginning of April, and if we're lucky, sometimes on the 28th or 29th of March, but officially early April. Some resources that you have at your disposal right now. You can see the current solicitation at nsfgrfp.org, which also has other resources such as Q&As and such to help you in your application endeavors. We have, along with this recording, other workshops, tools, and resources on the University of Utah's website for the NSF-GRFP, which is nsf-grfp.utah.edu. Your faculty mentor, whether you are applying as a graduate or an undergraduate student, is going to be a key part of your fellowship application team. Use them as a resource, have conversations with them. They'll be able to provide you with a lot of guidance. The University of Utah Writing Center is here to help you with your writing needs, writingcenter.utah.edu, and of course, Graduate Fellowship Advising, which is a service that I offer in the graduate school. And appointments can be made either for in-person or by Zoom by emailing fellowships@gradschool.utah.edu. Thank you for joining us here today for this information session about the NSF-GRFP, the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. I am Dr. Matthew Plusser, Assistant Dean of the Graduate School, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.